Hello guys and welcome to the BP Gaming Network. We are playing Out of the Park Baseball 19 featuring the Oakland Athletics franchise. This is week number 4 of our new season, 2018 season. If you watched our video last week or the last video, you basically saw the recap that we did for week 3. Showed you guys how the team performed all the way up to the end of week 3, and also any changes that we've made to our roster up to the end of week 3. So we're well into week 4. We've already played a few games. And today we have another game that we're going to play out, and we'll show you guys this game. It's our first game of the series against the Boston Red Sox. It's a 3-game series, and we'll set that game for you in a moment. But first, we will take you guys to our team reports and show you some of the major roster transactions we made so far. So on Monday, we had to option Daniel Mengden back down to AAA Nashville to make room for Trevor Cahill. So Daniel Mengden had struggled. If you take a look at his 2018 MLB starts, his ERA was 6.14 in 4 and 2/3 innings. So he was struggling a bit, and we needed to make some room in the rotation for Trevor Cahill. Cahill came off the DL, and we wanted him in the starting rotation. So and he's already played one game. He didn't do too well, and we'll talk about that when we do a weekly review or weekly recap. So that's the change we made on Monday. And then on Tuesday, we made a few other changes. We had 3 players that came off the DL. Josh Fegley, our backup catcher that we use from time to time, came off the DL, and we optioned him back down to AAA Nashville because we don't have a spot for him in our lineup. And then we also had to send Renato Nunez to AAA Nashville on a rehab assignment. The main reason why we did that was he was also coming off the DL, and we don't have any more options on him. So if we had to demote him down, he would be exposed to waivers. So we'd have to put him on irrevocable waivers, and doing so would expose him to all the other teams in the MLB. So we needed some time to think about what to do with him. We'll have to decide that. We've got a few days, probably up to 20 days, for him to be in rehab assignment while we decide on what to do with him. And the other guy who came off the DL was Paul Blackburn, another starting pitcher. We optioned him down to AAA Nashville just because we didn't have the spot for him on the rotation. So he's going to spend a few months, or even probably maybe 2 to 3 months in AAA, unless he pitches really well, or unless things really change drastically in our rotation, and then we may have to call him up. But he's one of the guys that we keep an eye on, and can call up on him if we run into any problems with our active roster. So that, in a nutshell, is the major transactions that we've done and the changes we've done to the roster. We tweaked our starting lineup slightly, and we'll show you guys that in a bit. But for today's game, so we're facing the Boston Red Sox, and their starting pitcher will be Chris Sale. You can see Chris Sale has had a good start to the season. Well, not all that great actually, but decent by most people's standards. But maybe when you're looking at Chris Sale, this is not the best start. It's a 3.97 ERA and 1-1 win and loss record for him so far. For Oakland, we'll be sending out our ace Sean Manaea, who hasn't recorded a win so far. He's 0 for 2, but has an ERA of 2.59. So he's just been unlucky. Hasn't been able to get a win on his side, but definitely pitching well so far into this season. So we'll take you guys to the lineup, and let's see batting stats. So we haven't made too many changes to our lineup. What we did was we brought up Jed Lowry. He was in seventh spot on our lineup, so we made him the lead off. And after doing that, he's played actually remarkably well for the last couple of games. So we're excited to see that. Starting to see that old Jed Lowry that we've come to know and respect, starting to play like himself. So I'm happy to have him as a leadoff. Matt Joyce remains at second spot in the lineup. Bruce Maxwell, we put him in that number 3 hole just because he's making good contact with the ball. He has a bit of power, and he's playing really well so far. So surprisingly enough, I'm starting him again today over Jonathan Lucroy, just because of how he's been performing so far. The cleanup hitter Chris Davis, he's got that 4th spot. Matt Olson will take the 5th spot on the lineup. Again, he's also starting to kind of play a lot better lately. And being a left-handed batter, I'd rather have him somewhere higher up on our lineup, just because we're facing a right-handed pitcher. Dustin Fowler in the 6th spot has been also playing really well of late. I know the numbers don't look great, but if you look at them deeper, if you look at the last few games, he's really played well. He had a home run just the other day, his first of the season, and so he's showing good signs of starting to play well. Marcus Semien also still struggling, but also starting to kind of play a little bit better. I think the team is starting to gel a little bit, but he's still struggling. He's still really not making good contact. Defensively, he's doing okay though. So we still have him in the lineup, and he's in that number 7 spot. At the 8th spot is Stephen Piscotty, who is also starting to play okay. You can see his on base percentage has gone up a little bit compared to the way he was playing at the start of the season. The other kid that I'm really excited about is Sheldon News. We brought him up from AAA Nashville last week, so he was one of the roster changes that we made last week that I was excited about. We had to demote Matt Chapman to AAA, and we called up Sheldon News, who has really come through for us. And today I am actually going to make a slight change and move him to that number 7 spot, and move Marcus Semien to the number 9 spot. So that's all for the lineup. Not too many changes, except for just the change we just did just now. So with that, we will advance over to the game that we're playing today. So this should be exciting. This is our first game against Boston so far this year. All right, you could see the advantage sort of goes to Boston if you compare the lineups. So we won't dwell too much on that. If we look at the team stats quickly, the Red Sox record is they've got an 8-11 record, so they're not playing really well so far into the season. That puts them in 4th place, so not where you expect to see them in their division. You could see here they seem to play a lot better at home at Fenway Park than they do on the road. Their team batting average is .245, which is 11th in the American League. For their pitching staff, 3.79 ERA for the entire staff, which is 5th in the American League. But when you look at their starters ERA, 3.14 is the number 1 in the American League. So they have a good rotation that we should be concerned about. The bullpen not that great, with a 4.88 ERA, which is good for 11th spot in the American League. If we take a look at Oakland, with our record now at 9-10, that puts us also in 4th place in the American League West Division. If you take a look at our record at home, not the best, but we seem to be playing better on the road. So one of those teams that seem to perform better on the road this year. If you look at our offense, the overall team batting average is 226, which is not great. It's good for 13th place in the American League. And if you look at our pitching staff, our total pitching staff ERA is 4.01, which is good for 8th place. Our starters ERA is 4.34, which is good for 7th place in the American League. And our bullpen has got an ERA of 3.43, which is good for 6th spot in the American League. So that's how the teams match up. So it's hard to really say who has an edge over the other. I would say maybe Boston have a slight edge because of their pitching staff and how they're positioned in the league. But I think both teams kind of have that little lackluster start to the season. So we're excited. Here we are. We're going to quickly set up the defensive positioning for Oakland. Pitching, Sean Manaea. Catcher, Jonathan Lucroy. First base, Matt Olson. Second base, Jed Lowry. Third base, Sheldon Noose. Shortstop, Marcus Semien. At left field will be Chris Davis. At center field, Jake Smolinski. And at right field will be Steven Piscotty. So batting next for Boston will be Andrew Benintendi. And let's play ball. So Benintendi works his way into a walk, and he is now at first base. That's Sean Manaea's first walk, facing the leadoff batter. Next is Hanley Ramirez batting second for Boston with one runner on first and nobody out. Hanley strikes out swinging. He will be set down. So now we have one out, runner still on first, and batting next is JD Martinez. Martinez also set down on strikeouts. That's Manaea's second strikeout. So we've got two down and a run on first. Mookie Betts batting next for Boston. Mookie comes up with a single to left field, so he'll get on base. So we've got a run on first and second for Boston with two outs. And batting next is Xander Bogaerts. And Bogaerts flies out to center field. That retires the side. The inning is over. Now we move on to the bottom of the first inning. We'll quickly introduce the defensive positioning for Boston. Pitcher, Chris Sale. Catcher, Sandy Leon. First base, Hanley Ramirez. Second base, Brock Holt. Third base, Eduardo Nunez. And shortstop for Boston is Xander Bogaerts. Left field will be Andrew Benintendi. Center field will be Jackie Bradley. And right field will be Mookie Betts, the Gold Glover. All right. Batting for Oakland, Jake Smolinski is the leadoff, and nobody on, nobody out. What a start to the game. Smolinski goes 394 feet out of the park. That's a home run. So now the score is 1-0 Oakland. What a way to start the game for Oakland. Batting next for Oakland will be Jonathan Lucroy. Lucroy comes up with flies out to center field, and he's set down. So we've got one out, nobody on. Steven Piscotty batting next. And Piscotty flies out to right field. He's set down. And now the cleanup hitter for Oakland, Chris Davis, to bat with two outs, nobody on. That's a mile-high pop-up infield rule, and he is out. That retires the side, inning over. Top of the second. Lead off for Boston, Jackie Bradley. Bradley hits it to the second baseman, and they force him out at first. Eduardo Nunes will be next with 1 out, nobody on for Boston. That's a double for Nunes, and he gets himself on base with a double. So now Boston have a run on second with 1 out, and Brock Holt to bat. And Brock Holt checks his swing there, so he earns himself a walk. So we have runners on first and second for Boston with 1 out, and Sandy Leon to bat. And Sandy Leon comes up with the hit single to left field that scores the runner from second, advances the runner from first to second. So now we've got a runner on first and second for Boston. The score is tied 1-1 with Andrew Benintendi batting next for Boston. Benintendi works his way into a walk. That's the second walk issued by Sean Manai. And things get interesting. So now bases loaded. Henley Ramirez, who has power, batting next. There's only 1 out for Boston. That's going to be a wild pitch against Sean Manai. Scores a runner from third. And now we have runners on second and third. Still batting Henley Ramirez with only 1 out.
Strike 3, you're out.
And Ramirez strikes out. That makes it 2 out now with runners still on second and third. JD Martinez also with a lot of power batting next. Martinez comes up with what looked to be a hit, but it's actually a fly out line drive to left field. That retires the side and the inning is over. So Boston leading 2-1, and lead off now for Oakland is Matt Olson. And Matt Olson pops it up behind the plate, and the catcher makes the put out. That retires Olson. So batting next is Marcus Semien with 1 out, nobody on for Oakland. Semien hits it straight at the second baseman. They force him out at first, and he's retired. Jet Lowry batting next for Oakland. And Lowry is retired, strikes out. That ends the bottom of the second inning. So we move to the third inning. Mookie Betts batting next, lead off for Boston. And Mookie works his way into a walk. He's on base at first. We've got a run on first, nobody out. And batting next is Xander Bogaerts. Bogaerts comes up with a hit to center field. Single, that makes it runners on first and second with nobody out. And batting next for Boston, Jackie Bradley. He has a runner in scoring position and 1 on first base. Nobody out still for Boston. Now it looks to be a pop fly, infield rule in effect. That retires Bradley. So we've got a 1 out. Runners on first and second, and Eduardo Nunes to bat. Nunes hits it towards the pitcher, and they force him out at first. So, that's going to be recorded as an infield single. Bogart actually makes it to first base safely. So now we have bases loaded. Sorry, that was Eduardo Nunes who made it to first base. So Xander Bogart at second, Mookie Betts at third base. Brock Holt is batting next for Boston with the bases loaded.
Strike 3, you're out.
And he's set down via strikes, so that's 2 outs for Boston with the bases still loaded. Sandy Leon up next. That's another wild pitch against Sean Manai. Scores a runner from third. That makes it runners on second and third, and Sandy Leon still to bat with 2 outs.
Strike 3.
And they set him down on strikeouts, so that retires the side. The inning is over, but Boston advances the lead to 3-1. Batting leadoff at the bottom of the third inning for Oakland is Mark Canha. He's hit by a pitch, and he will advance to first. So now there's a runner on first for Oakland, and nobody out. Batting next, Sheldon News.
Strike 3, you're out.
And he strikes out swinging, went after a bad pitch. He's set down. So 1 out, runner on first. Batting next, Jake Smolinski.
Strike 3, you're out.
Smolinski also set down via strikeout, so that makes it 2 outs. Runner still on first for Oakland. Batting next, Jonathan Lucroy. Lucroy flies out to right field, retiring the side, and inning is over. So we'll move on to the top of the fourth. Leading for Boston is Andrew Benintendi, who comes up with the single to right field, and he's on base. So a runner on first, nobody out, and Hanley Ramirez to bat for Boston. Ramirez comes up with a hit to left field. That advances the runner to second. Now we have runners on first and second for Boston. And it's still nobody out. So that'll be a base hit for Martinez. And now we have bases loaded again for JD Martinez. Bases loaded for Mookie Betts. Martinez was on with the single to center field, and we're gonna have to now consider potentially warming up one of our bullpen pitchers. So Chris Hatcher is warming up in the bullpen for Oakland. Sean Manai has thrown 76 pitches, all in the in three innings. So he's now got bases loaded with Mookie Betts, a good hitter to bat. Looks like Mookie Betts hits a fly out to center field, and he will be set down, but the runner tags and scores from third base. And the score now is 4-1 Boston. We still have runners on first and second, and Alexander Bogarts to bat next with 1 out for Boston. Bogarts comes up with a hit to left field. That doesn't score any runs, but the throw is a bad one, and the runner attacks from third and scores. So now the score is 5-1 Boston, with runners on second and third, with Jackie Bradley batting next.
Strike 3.
Bradley swings and misses. He's set down on strikeouts. So we've got 2 outs, runners still on second and third for Boston. Eduardo Nunez, he comes up with a base hit single to left field that scores a run, and the score now is 6-0. And Oakland is going to make a pitching change as they bring in a new pitcher. Chris Hatcher enters the ball game to relieve Sean Manai. So Manai went 3 2/3 innings. The score is 6-1. Runners on first and third. Batting next for Boston is Brock Holt with 2 outs. And Holt hits a ground ball to the shortstop, and they force out the runner at second, ending the inning. So now we move to the second half of the fourth inning. Leadoff for Oakland is Stephen Piscotty. And Piscotty is retired with a fly out to right field. Up next for Oakland is Chris Davis. Davis comes up with a hit to right field. So he's on base at first. We've got one out, runners on first, and batting next is Matt Olson facing Chris Sale. Olson hits a ground ball to the third baseman, and they turn a double play. That's a 5-4-3 double play. That retires the side, inning over, and we now move on to the top of the 5th inning. Boston is still leading 6-1. Sandy Leon grounds out to the first baseman. Andrew Benintendi is now batting next for Boston with one out and nobody on. Benintendi flies out to center field and he's set down. So Hanley Ramirez will be batting next with 2 outs, nobody on. And Ramirez works his way into a walk, so he will advance to first base. And JD Martinez, who is now 3 for 1, is batting next with a run on first and 2 outs. Martinez may have caught all of that, and he did, and that's a home run to center left, and that makes the score now 8-1 Boston. With still 2 outs, nobody on. Batting for Boston is Mookie Betts following that home run. And Mookie Betts comes up with a single to center field. So he gets on base. He's on base at first. And we'll see a reliever for Oakland warming up. And Oakland gets forced out at second from a ground ball, so that retires the inning and the side is over. The score is still 8-1 Boston, and now batting next for Oakland is Marcus Semien. And Semien strikes out swinging. He is set down. That makes it 1 out with nobody on. Batting next, Jed Lowry. Lowry comes up with a hit to left center field. Sorry, that's left field, and he's on at first. And batting next now will be Mark Canha. Jed Lowry at first base with 1 out.
Strike 3, you're out.
They call that a strike, so Mark Canha is set down on strikes. That makes it 2 outs. Runner still on first, and batting next, Sheldon Neuse. And Neuse will fly out to left field, retiring the side, and the inning is over. The score is still 8-1. And we now have a pitching change being made by Oakland. Yasmiro Petit is in to pitch for Oakland. He'll be facing the leadoff at the top of the 6th for Boston, Jackie Bradley.
Strike 3.
Bradley set down on strikes. Eduardo Nunez batting next with 1 out and nobody on for Boston. And Nunez flies out to left field. He is retired. And the batter for Boston now is Brock Holt with 2 outs, nobody on. And Holt hits a ground ball to the second baseman. He's forced out at first. And that's a 1-2-3 inning for Petit, retiring the side, and the inning is over. And now we advance to the bottom of the 6th inning. Batting leadoff for Oakland is Jake Smolinski. Smolinski hits a line drive, but it's a fly out to left field. He is set down. So 1 out with nobody on. Batting next, Jonathan Lucroy. Lucroy with a ground out to second base, and he's forced out at first. Piscotty flies out on a 1-2 pitch to right field. He is set down, retiring the side, and the inning is over. The score is still 8-1. We move on to the top of the 7th inning. Yasmiro Petit is still pitching for Oakland. Petit gets another strikeout, retiring the first leadoff batter for Boston. And now Andrew Benintendi is next to bat with 1 out, nobody on. Benintendi hits a fly out to center field. Looked like it was going to be a base hit, but Smolinski ran it out. So that makes it 2 outs, nobody on. Hanley Ramirez for Boston will be batting next.
Strike 3, you're out.
And he is retired by a strikeout, and that ends the inning. So we'll move to the second half of the 7th inning. The 7th inning stretch. Chris Davis batting next for Oakland, comes up with a double to right field, and he makes it safely. So Chris Davis with a double. That brings up Matt Olson. Runners on second, nobody out for Oakland. Matt Olson hits a fly out to center field, and he is retired. That makes it 1 out for Oakland. And runner still on second. Marcus Semien now to bat. And I think Marcus Semien caught all of that, which makes it a home run. So that scores 2 runs for Oakland with only 1 out, making the score now 8-3 still for Boston. And we have a pitching change for Boston. Austin Maddox will come in to pitch for Boston. And batting next for Oakland is Jed Lowry, who's got 1 out, nobody on. Jed Lowry hits a ground out to first base. He's retired. And batting next for Oakland, Mark Canha. Canha with a hit towards third base, and the third baseman was unable to safely catch that and throw it, so that will be an error charged towards the third baseman. And Mark Canha gets on base. Sheldon Neuse will be batting next for Oakland with a run on first. And that's a pop-up fly out for Neuse. He's retired, and the side is retired, and the inning is over. And now we move on to the top of the 8th, and we'll warm up another bullpen pitcher to come in relief. And that's a single for Martinez to left field. So JD Martinez is on base. Mookie Betts to bat with nobody out. Run on first. Mookie Betts comes up with a home run to right field. That went 376 feet, making the score for Boston out 10-3. Xander Bogaerts flies out to left field, and he is set down. And now batting next for Boston is Jackie Bradley. He's got 1 out, nobody on for Boston. Bradley comes up with a hit single to center field, and he gets on base. So Eduardo Nunez comes on to bat for Boston with a run on first and 1 out. Nunez also comes up with the single to left field. That advances the runner to second. So we have runners on first and second for Boston with only 1 out. And Yusmeiro Petit works himself into trouble, gives up a walk. Now the bases are loaded, and we'll see a pitching change for Oakland. Emilio Pagan will come in to pitch for Yusmeiro Petit. and he'll be expected to work his way out of trouble here, facing Sandy Leon with bases loaded. Sandy Leon with a fly out to shallow center, and Jackie Bradley with his speed tags and scores from third base. That leaves us with runners on first and second for Boston, and batting next is Andrew Benintendi, the left fielder. Benintendi will come up with a base hit to center field. That scores a run, and the score is now 12-3 Boston. Runners still on first and second with 2 outs. Batting next is Hanley Ramirez. Ramirez comes up with a home run that scores 3 runs, making the score 15-3 Boston. And we still have 2 outs and nobody on now for Boston. Batting next, JD Martinez. And Oakland cannot seem to get anybody out as another hit comes up. JD Martinez gets a hit to right center field, and we may have an injury here as Emilio Pagan gets injured. So things go from bad to worse for Oakland. And they will have to make a substitution for their pitcher. And we'll see Liam Hendricks enter the game for Oakland to replace the injured pitcher for Oakland. So Mookie Betts with another hit to center field, and that's a double. Now we have runners on second and third. Xander Bogaert is next to bat for Boston. Bogaert comes up with a base hit single to left field that scores 2 runs. The score now is 17-3. This is now becoming a rout, and this has basically sucked the fun out of the crowd here. It's a huge score. There's not a lot of time for Oakland to even make an effort to come back. So lead off at the bottom of the 8th will be Jake Smolinski for Oakland.
Strike 3.
And Smolinski is sat down, goes down chasing the strikeout. Jonathan Lucroy. And Lucroy flies out to right field. He is set down. So we've got 2 down so far with nobody on. And batting next, Steven Piscotty for Oakland. Piscotty hits a ground ball to the second baseman, and they set him down at first and retires the side, and the inning is over. So Liam Hendricks is still on the mound facing Eduardo Nunez as the leadoff for Boston. Nunez comes up with a double, make that actually a triple. So the leadoff batter gets a triple, advances to third base. So with nobody out, runners on third, Brock Holt batting for Boston. Holt with a short low tapper to the pitcher, and he manages an infield hit as he gets to first base safely, and that also scores a run, earning him an, oh no, that didn't score a run, sorry. So batting next now is Sandy Leon with runners on first and third and nobody out.
Strike 3.
Sandy Leon is set down by strikeouts, strikes out swinging. Andrew Benintendi batting next for Boston with runners on first and second. Another short tapper to the pitcher, and they try to force the out at second. So, and they get him. So that makes it 2 outs for Boston. Runners still on first and third. Batting, Hanley Ramirez. Andrew Benintendi makes it on base on a fielder's choice. Ramirez hits it right at the shortstop, and they force the out at second, retiring the side. So now we're at the bottom of the ninth. The score is 17-3, and the leadoff for Oakland, Chris Davis. And he hits it straight to the shortstop, and he is out. Matt Olson will bat next for Oakland. Olson comes up with a double to right field, and he gets on base. So we have runners in scoring position, and Marcus Semien, who has gone 3 for 1 with a home run, is batting next. Marcus Semien comes up with a double to right field. That's an RBI, and he gets on base at second. So Oakland tries to reduce the lead that Boston has just by a few runs by making it 17-4. But this might be a little bit too late, as Jet Lowry gets on base due to an error by the second baseman. That advances Marcus Semien to third base, so runners on first and third with 1 out, and Mark Kenner will be batting next, and Oakland will make a substitution here. So Matt Joyce will pinch hit for Mark Kenner as the DH. He has the power. That makes a matchup now for Oakland a little bit better, as we have a lefty against a righty.
Strike 3.
And doesn't come up to anything, as he is set down on strikes. We're down to our last out as Sheldon Noose comes up to bat. Runners on first and third, and Oakland will make or attempt to make another substitution here. So we have a pinch hitter coming up for Oakland. Chad Pinder will replace Sheldon Noose at third base, batting next. And Pinder hits a ground ball to the second baseman, and they force the out at first. And the game is over. Oakland loses in the worst of ways, 17-4. Their offense just wasn't there for this game. Eduardo Nunes with his home run really aided his team to this win. Chris Sale pitched okay, went 6 1/3 innings, gave up 3 runs. His ERA moved up to 4.03. Sean Manai, who struggled for Oakland, went only 3 2/3 innings, gave up 10 hits, 6 runs, 6 of them earned. Gave up 4 walks, only had 6 strikeouts, and his ERA climbs up to 4.14. The bullpen also struggled across the board. Chris Hatcher came up, gave up 2 runs. Yasmira Petit came in and gave up 5 runs. Emilio Pagan came in and gave up 3 runs. And Liam Hendricks came in and gave up a run. So really, the pitching just wasn't there for Oakland offensively. If anybody we can point to is Marcus Semien, who had that home run, drove in 3 RBIs. The rest of the guys were just absent. Boston saw a lot of runs, being produced by so many people. Benintendi had 2 RBIs. Sorry, 1 RBI. Ramirez had 3 RBIs. JD Martinez had 2 RBIs. Mookie Betts had 3. Xander Bogaerts had 3. Sandy Leon, the catcher, also had 2 RBIs. So their offense was clicking, and that's the result. So that's where we're at, and kind of disappointed with the performance there, but we still have a lot of baseball left to play. So thanks a lot, guys, for being with us, and we hope to see you on our next video. Maybe we might play out another game this week. If not, we'll do our weekly recap at the end of the week, and just walk you guys through all the changes and all the games that that we played out this week. So we still have a couple more games to play this week, and then we're off to our 5th week. So appreciate you guys being with us. Hope to see you on our next video. Thank you so much.